Hi, my name's Daisy. I am the founder and head cake decorator at Daisy Bridal Creations. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Halloween pumpkin cake. So what you're going to need for this is 2 half rounds sponge. I've made a spiced pumpkin sponge. You're going to need about 400 grams of vanilla buttercream, a 11-inch board, sugar paste. We're using today orange and black because it's a pumpkin. So to start with, I'm going to just cut the bottom off here to make it flush with each other. So getting your knife just above the lip, cut around, twisting the sponge as you go. So I'm now going to cut a little bit off the top so that it sits flush on our board. Okay, so we have to put our cake onto our board. I'm going to get a little bit of buttercream with my spatula and put it on the board. This is just to secure the cake and stop it moving around. Okay, I'm now going to fill with our buttercream. So you probably want a good 2½ spoonfuls of your buttercream. And just smooth it going from the inside out. Don't worry if you go over the edges because we're going to crumb coat it later. Nice and smooth. So we're now going to grab our second half and put it on top. Okay, I'm just going to smooth around the edges, just to get rid of the excess. So now we're going to start carving our pumpkin. I'm going to put it on my turntable. And with a smallish knife, carve the eyes. This is just like carving a real pumpkin. And you want to accentuate it a little bit. Just take out all the excess. And then we'll do his eyebrow. So I'm cutting quite deeply. So we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So now taking the small cutter, we're just going to do the nostrils. So just push and twist. Okay, and now moving on to the mouth. We can use this natural line here, but I'm just going to make it a little bit wider. So we now need to make the ridges in the pumpkin. So I'm just going to cut from the top in a curve all the way down. Again, you want to accentuate these so that when you cover them, you have a nice big ridge. So now we're just going to crumb coat it. So you want to get your buttercream again and just do a thin layer all over. Now this is to lock in the moisture from your cake, and also it helps stick the sugar paste on later. So getting it in all of the little holes. Doesn't have to be too neat. So now that we've crumb coated our cake, we now need to stick it in the fridge for about half an hour to make sure that the buttercream sets. So now that our buttercream has set, we're going to fill in the features with black sugar paste. So we won't need all of the sugar paste, but I'm going to use it anyway, because I always like to have too much rather than too little. So I'm just going to soften it up a bit. And then just roll it out in a nice even motion. So now that our sugar paste is rolled out, I'm just going to cut the excess away. And with your rolling pin, gently pick it up, get your cake, and just cover it over the front. Making sure that you get into all of the grooves. Now that all the features are marked out, we need to cut away the excess. So I'm going to put it on my turntable and cut around these features here. So with my tools, I'm just going to accentuate the details. So I'm going to get my Dresden tool and my ball tool. So first we'll do the nostrils. So I'm just going to push it in. And then using the Dresden tool, I'm just going to push into the eyebrows. So you can see why we cut such a deep details, because this way we have more room to move. So just do exactly the same on the other side. Take your time when you're doing this, because you need to get all the features that you've carved out. So now we just need to gently press down the edges. Very gently. So now we're going to roll out the orange sugar paste to cover the entire thing. But before we do that, because we've been working with black, we need to wash our hands. Now that our hands are washed, I'm going to roll out the orange sugar paste. Don't worry that it's quite light because we're going to airbrush it later. I'm going to get a little bit of icing sugar. So for this one we're going to use our marzipan spacers just to get a nice even covering. Pick up your icing, grab your cake and lay it over the top. You have to work quickly, otherwise all this excess will pull. Going down and pulling up. Cut some away excess. And then pulling it out very gently. And you can see your markings coming through. Pulling it out so you don't get any creases. Now remember, we've covered the front in black, so we don't need to press in the features there because we're going to cut the orange away. So just cut any excess. If you have too much excess, it will pull it off the cake. So now, to cut away the features that we've covered in black, I'm just going to very gently find them with my fingers. This way we know where they are. And then with your ball tool, we'll just gently go down . And then using a small end just to push it in a bit more. So I'm just going to press underneath, make sure that it's all in there. Then to make life easier, I'm going to get my turntable so that when I cut it I can just turn it around. So just placing your knife against the cake, just cut around the bottom. And just press the rest of it in neatly. So now we're going to get our scalpel tool again and we're going to cut around our features to expose the black icing. So just remembering where you cut. Gently remove the orange. So now, because I've cut a little bit too much away, I'm just going to very gently mould it back down and then soften the edges with my finger. Okay, and then we're going to do exactly the same with all the other features. So now that we've got all the details showing, we're just going to now score a few lines up and down just to make it look a little bit more realistic. So just getting your sharp edge tool, run it up towards the top. And then don't forget the lips, just to make them look a little bit scarier. And with my ball tool, I'm just going to make a round indent in the top. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to put this to one side and we can make the stalk to go on top. So get your icing again, same colour. And you want to make a sausage shape. So just roll it into a ball. Okay, and then roll it into a sausage shape. Doesn't matter if you get finger marks on it, add to the effect. Try and leave one end a little bit thicker than the rest of it. And we'll just cut this off. And then between your hands, just roll it. So you get a nice cone shape. We want it a little bit wonky, so that's okay. And then just twist the end round. And then with your forefingers and your thumb, just press out the edges. so that it looks a little bit like a hat. And with your flat edge tool, just make some indents in it. Okay, and there we have the stalk of our pumpkin. Okay, so now we're going to airbrush our pumpkin cake. So get your airbrush. I put down some paper just to protect my board. I was going to test it on it. Okay, and then you just want to gently so you want a fairly light covering to start, because then we're going to shade it with some brown. Make sure you've got underneath. And you're pressing very, very lightly on your airbrush. Okay, and that's the first coat done. So now for the shading, I have a reference, which I'm going to try and copy-ish. So I've now got brown in my airbrush. It's a slightly finer needle inside, and I'm just going to shade it in the grooves. And you can be a bit heavier handed in the bigger grooves. You can even do a light shading over the orange, just to make it slightly darker. And mouth. Don't worry if it's not exact, because each pumpkin is different and has its own characteristics. So go around the eyes, just to bring them out a bit. And the other features. Same around the other eye. And the eyebrow. The idea is just to accentuate the markings, and also it's Halloween, so you want to make it as scary as possible. Each marking can also be different shades. And there we have our airbrush pumpkin. So now we need to finish off the stalk to put on the top. So I'm going to move him to one side. A little stalk, and do the same thing with just the brown. Or you can go quite dark. Just accentuate the grooves. So now we need to put the stalk on top of our pumpkin. So with a palette knife, just gently pick it up. Now you don't need any edible glue because it's still slightly tacky. So just gently place it on top. And there you have your Halloween pumpkin.